Hey guys, so the devs have asked us for our opinion as a community what changes we should make to Frostborn to balance the game, which is an amazing thing that they're wanting to balance the game. That increases our, the fun level of PvP. And now I know there's other issues with that, maybe runes, some other stuff. I understand, and hopefully the devs will also work on that. If you guys have not seen my video talking about my mixed feelings about the devs giving me this ask, go watch it. I created this formula with you guys, and it's fantastic. It's a great video. Go check it out. But that's that video. This video is, and I talk in that video about me losing hope in them having an arena, and I'm asking the devs, hey, is there any way that y'all can tell us, like, 4 months from now, 4 years from now, is there ever going to be an arena, or is that not part of y'all's plan? And if it's not, then I don't 100% know why we're even doing this. But let's pretend that it is, that the arena is a possibility for Frostborn. There have been things in the initial stages of Frostborn that would imply that they were thinking about an arena. We haven't seen anything in the first really 4 seasons. The first 3 seasons, definitely. The fourth season, they've had a little bit of a PvP focus. But my argument in this video, I think that before we can really talk about class balance changes, we need to talk about weapon balance changes. So let's talk about weapon balance changes. So first weapon, most OP weapon in the game, it's been the most OP weapon in the game for a while, is the Firebow. It has 10 damage per second of burn damage. Now, with level 4 classes, is that still true, you ask? I'm not 100% sure. With runes, adding an extra 70% health, the fact that you can have up to, 800 hit points in this game now, does that mean that the Firebow is becoming less effective? Yes, it is. It's becoming less effective, and so maybe the Firebow is not that big of a deal at the highest level, but practically speaking, most people, a lot of people don't even have level 3 classes, much less level 4 classes. And so, once they separated the classes, I think that it happened a lot more. It's a lot more common that people will have level 3 classes. Let's talk about weapons, because there's some elements to weapons they're important to keep in mind. So the first one is the Firebow. The devs need to figure out, do we want the Firebow to just be that powerful? Again, now that once we start getting runes, right now you just have to spend money for runes. And so someone that spends enough money could have plus 70% health. And, the Firebow might not affect them, but it would affect everyone else. So we have to factor that in. And so that's one element of this. There's the Firebow. 10 damage a second of true damage. It ignores armor, is a lot of damage for most scenarios. That's what has made the Firebow just the main weapon for PvP for a long time. That being said, now that they've increased the runes, you can get up to 40% more damage. That's going to affect the weapon damage and not affect the fire damage. You can get up to 70% more health. That's going to greatly slow down how much the Firebow's effectiveness. So maybe the Firebow's been fixed, but the devs do need to think that, in my opinion, the first thing that needs to be talked about is the Firebow. Is the Firebow need to be nerfed? Do those type of effect damages need to be tweaked? In my opinion, it does. I would say that it needs to go down to like 8 damage per second, which may not feel like that much less, but it is. That's significant. 8 damage per second, but then maybe increase the DPS a little bit, just to make it a lot not as big of a deal. But then again, you've got to factor in. But then again, you got to factor in runes, and runes do really nerf the firebow. Having a lot of runes that increase your health or your damage, it just, having an archer that has really increased damage. And I do like I don't want them to nerf the firebow too much, because I like the idea of like a hunter maybe saying, hey, I'm actually going to get plus 70% health, and I'm just going to wait people out. I'm just going to hit them with the firebow, and I'm just going to keep doing more damage than they can heal. And I have my extra movement speed. If that's a real possibility, I like it. The problem is it's hard to really tell the devs a good balance update when I haven't played with. Even if I had all the runes, other people wouldn't have all the runes. And if they don't have the runes, then I'm not really seeing what is actually fair or what could actually be balanced. So how can we possibly balance the game without understanding the runes? But I'm giving my best shot. Okay, I'm going to give my best shot. And so I would say without runes, the firebow is too powerful still. Even though they've buffed other weapons, the firebow is still too powerful. Nerf the firebow. Including runes, maybe the firebow's fine. Okay, the second thing is buff Skull's Claws. Again, they did buff it. They said it does extra damage to players. And that's cool, except they just made it as good as a 65 DPS. This has 62 DPS, and then they have the new dragon sword, which does even more DPS. I don't know. I just feel like Skull's Claws, you kill the hardest boss in the entire game and you get a pretty crappy weapon. So I think it needs to be buffed even more. Maybe get it to 70 DPS. I know that's only 4 DPS more, but I think that would be enough to make it maybe worth it. Or add some poison damage. I mean, Skull does poison damage. Why don't you just add some poison damage to that weapon? And personally, I think it should be a legendary weapon. I think they should add. This is what I would do. I would make Skull's Claw a legendary weapon. I mean, it's from the hardest boss in Frostborn. Why not make it a legendary weapon? And then you would do. And then you'd add like. I'd keep it exactly how it is, and then I'd add like 5 poison damage a second. Okay, that's 5 true DPS in there. That would put it up to 70 DPS, but 5 of it would be true, which would be really good against players. Personally, I don't know why it has to be a bonus to players. I don't know why you don't just make the DPS 65.7, like the Wrath Staff is 66. So it's not an OP weapon. And if people want to use it for PvE, but then give it some poison damage. I don't know. That's my opinion. I feel like the hardest boss in Frostborn should give a good weapon. Like, that's a big deal for me. This weapon's, I think, very well balanced. You got the 61 DPS versus the 62 DPS, but then you've got that reduces their armor. I think that's pretty cool. That's a cool dagger. It's good, especially for the bandit. I like the dagger. Now, the new dagger in the last season. Let's see. Let's pull it up right here. This new dagger is a little OP. Or maybe Assassin 4 is a little OP. But I honestly, I'm somewhat okay with it, because the whole point of an assassin is that you should, it's either evaporate or die. If you don't evaporate them, then you die. And you don't see it in team PvP. You don't see assassins in team PvP. Even a level 4 assassin with the assassin dagger is not showing up in team PvP a whole lot. So, and Frostborn is a team, is supposed to be a team game. So I don't know if it's really, I know a lot of people really complain, oh, it's impossible to win against the assassin. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of the point, right? Is it's kind of hard to win against the assassin. Like, so you've got to stick together as a team, or you got to be really tanky. But if you're an archer and you're complaining about the assassin killing you, you're out of your mind. That's the whole point, okay? Now, if you're a thrasher and you're getting killed by an assassin, yeah, maybe there's some brokenness there. I wonder if it should not be ignores 30% of enemy armor, and it should just be ignores 30 armor or 20 armor. Okay. Yeah. That actually, this is my suggestion on balancing the assassin dagger. Make it ignore 20 armor. Okay. So that way, when you're going up against someone squishy, like a archer, you're doing, it's just as effective as it has been. Actually, archers have more like 80. So yeah, I think make it 30 armor. Okay. Now against an archer, you're going to be maybe even a little bit against a mage or someone. You're going to be doing even more armor penetration. But against a tank with 130 armor, you're going to be doing a lot less. Yeah, let's say 25. 25 is probably the happy median there. And that way you're evaporating archers, which in my opinion, the assassin should be able to evaporate archers. It should be the counter for archers and mages. A lot of you guys are archers and mages, and if you're complaining about the assassin, pick a different class. Like, that's the point, is there should be counters. Don't fight with the assassin. Now, if the assassin's taking out protectors and thrashers, then there's a problem. So devs try to fix it to where this dagger isn't so OP that you're taking out the strongest people out there. One way to make it not good against the protector would be to keep the DPS at 71. Wow. Some pretty crazy DPS. But then make its attack rate. Basically make its damage lower and its attack rate faster. Still get the same damage, but you're not going to be doing... Protector's going to be blocking a lot more of that, if that's what you want. It is a legendary weapon. The stun bow is... I feel like the stun bow is somewhat balanced. I mean, is maybe if it's not balanced, it's hard to tell because the fire bow is so powerful. But generally, when I see someone with a stun bow, I just grab a fire bow and I take them out. If you've seen that live stream where I did that live where those two guys attacked me, one had a stun bow, one had a fire bow, I was way more afraid of the fire bow guy and ended up killing the guy with the stun bow. It was not that difficult. My opinion, devs, and maybe this is just my opinion. This is not I'm not speaking for the community here. My opinion is just take out chance stuff. Your attack has a 20% chance of stunning targets for 1 second. I would just change it to every 5th shot stuns for 1 second. You know, I like the strategy of being able to know what I'm going to get and not feel like, oh, I just got unlucky. But that's my opinion. I'm not speaking for the community there. The Thor Staff, I love it how it is. I think it's fantastic. It is just a little bit less DPS than a Wrath Staff, but it's got the chain lightning. Love it. I thought fantastic job there. Healing Staff. I know that y'all are really protective against healing. Y'all do not like giving out healing for free, and I respect that, but 8 health, I don't know, 8 health per second. Yeah, I like the staff. It's so we've gone through the legendary weapons. I'm thinking the dagger needs to be not as good against tanks, but other than that, the legendary weapons are fine. What do you guys think? If you guys disagree with me, please. I have not actually played really competitively in Frostborn in a while, and so if you guys have, if I'm missing something, you can rage if you want, if that makes you happy, but usually it doesn't. Statistically, it doesn't actually make you happy to put a bunch of trash, toxic comments on a video. Rather, you can just say something constructive, and I want to hear it. I'm telling you to go write it down there. So I respect your opinion. I value it. Go put it down there. I will respond well. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're dumb. You know, like, give your opinion. I might disagree with you, but we can have an intellectual conversation about it and why. And don't feel like you need to be toxic to be heard, because you don't. Okay, Kyrgyz bottle. I don't know, guys. So they buffed the alchemist. For those of you who I haven't mentioned, if you only watch my videos, you don't watch anything else. They increased the flask damage by quite a bit, and they increased the long throw to 7 seconds from 5 seconds. So the alchemist is definitely more of a fair shot. But oh my gosh, please, there we go. No. So, and it has some good slowdown effects. I would say the alchemist seems like it can be a good class. Some people say it's OP now. I doubt it, unless they fixed Kyrgyz bottle applying true damage, which I don't think they did, because they increased how much damage it does, which I think that's fine. I think that's great. So now it can do up to 72 damage a second. It's crazy, right? I mean, that's awesome. So yeah, they made it to where basically it's weapon damage. It's affected by armor, but it can do, if like for the Kyrgyz bottle, you can get up to 72 damage a second, and that is on top of the 25 DPS. So you can get up to 100 DPS with a bottle now. That is a lot of DPS. When I said that the alchemist was a crappy PvP character, that was before they buffed all of this. They buffed the character and they buffed the bottles. So the bottles no longer do true damage, which honestly, true damage, I think true damage is kind of fun, but only in small quantities. I don't think that like, definitely not 72 true damage a second. That would evaporate people pretty quick. And then it increases their movement speed. So I think that the alchemist and witch doctor are now viable options, but that's what I'm talking about. By changing the weapon, they dramatically affected the alchemist and the witch doctor, and that's what we're talking about in this episode. We're talking about all the weapons, because you first have to make sure that the weapons are good, so that before you change the classes, because they affect the classes. Does that make sense? And so that's really what it boils down to. And so we've gone through several things. I think the firebow needs to go down to 8 damage a second of true damage, and then maybe increases DPS. That's going to make it scale differently. It's still a lot. 8 DPS of fire damage is a lot. It's just not quite as intense. 10 fire damage a second is a lot, and it's going to be a lot until you get maybe this lots of runes and high level classes. It's going to be a lot. It's too much. So it just melts people too fast. On my account where I was playing with Luftatar and I was level 50, I would just, I mean, it was one of those things where it's like my health would just evaporate to a firebow. And there's nothing you can do about it except for a Dispel Potion, which I am going to be talking about the Dispel Potion. I'm waiting as long as I can, because it's going to make a lot of people angry. I have thoughts on the Dispel Potion that is going to make some of you guys, or it's going to make the pro players angry. But I think it's it's going to make it's something that the devs need to think about. The armor's good. I wouldn't change anything about any of the armor. I wouldn't change anything about the armor. I like the movement speeds. I like the setups. Dragon armor definitely adds extra damage, but that's fun. That's cool. I think dragon armor is the best. It's cool. This sword is amazing. Again, I would just remove the effect of a 15% chance and just make it 1 out of 7. Every 7th hit does plus 30% damage. And yes, I would say make it to where you could hit a mob 6 times, and then when you go into PvP, you get to start off with that extra damage. Great, why not? The reason why not, I'm just answering my own question, is because it could end up causing an imbalance issue, so keep that in mind. But personally, I like to be able to have, I don't like it when people get lucky against me, or even when I get lucky against them and people can be like, oh, you just got lucky. I just like it when it can all be strategy. It can all be, oh yeah, I planned that. Or even if I didn't plan it, but it was like, people can still get lucky. They could, oh, I didn't realize it was my 7th hit. But again, it's consistent. This dragon shield and sword is great. Oh, actually, I would say this. Well, that's next video. Never mind. I do have a thought on the protector that I think will be really helpful for the devs to hear. That is going to be very useful for the devs to hear. The Cleaver is good. It's just been kind of a staple weapon. 5-shot crossbow is amazing. Oh, this dragon support staff. It does 8 damage a second, poison damage. If you're going to reduce the fire bow, you might want to reduce this down to 7. But I don't know. I don't see a lot of people using it. I mean, you guys, I'd encourage you devs to run the numbers, right? I mean, y'all can probably get a graph sheet of saying who's using what weapons, who's winning what PvP fights with what weapons, and then kind of get a balance. If it's like, oh, fire bows win all the time, then curve the balance. Like you're gonna have more numbers than we have. We're just using our experience. This dragon combat staff feels like it needs to be buffed. Or actually, what I think would be cool is to decrease, to make it just a really lean into it. Make it reduce spells. Oh my gosh, I hate when I do this. Okay, make it reduce the spells cooldown by 50%. Okay? 50%. Now, yeah, because it's mages, right? We're not, that would be OP for the assassin. That might be OP for some of the other classes, but the fire mage, you'd be like, oh, that's too OP. You're going to be able to stun people too much, but you're going to be nerfing their damage by 10 DPS over the rat staff. That's going to really hurt the fire mage. So they would have to almost be making a conscious decision. I don't think it would make as big of a difference as you think. 50%, the spells in Frostborn are none of them are that much of a game changer that by being able to do them twice as much, it's going to be like, oh, I'll just give up a ton of DPS because it's going to be so worth it. The Ice Mage might, because you'd be able to do the wall more often, but Ice Mage sucks, so you could buff that a lot. The illusion, again, 50%. By using a percentage, being able to do it double, you're increasing how much you're able to do it in a fight by once. One extra skill a fight isn't going to make that big of a difference, but you're going to make this staff have a purpose. And that's what we're wanting, right? We want it to have a purpose. Pathfinder bow's great. Frostbow, okay. Here's my opinion, devs. I think that the Frostbow is is theoretically OP. Functionally, it's not, but theoretically, you've got to factor in so this is something League of Legends does. Basically, a slowing ability for a ranged weapon needs to be smaller than a slowing ability for a melee weapon to be able to come and stick to someone. So like the Ice Fang, I feel like the Ice Fang is incredibly unbalanced. You need that to be able to reduce them by in League of Legends they make the Frozen Mallet makes it reduce their speed by 70%, because you had to do all of that work to get up to that person to hit them. And there are so many ways for them to escape. They can stun you, they can do all this stuff. You want there to be that time where you hit them and then something happened and they're running slowly away and you're trying to get out of your stun trap, or you're trying to dispel from a bola or whatever it is, and you're like, am I still gonna catch them? And maybe you won't, but like you want that suspense there to be there. When you hit them with the Ice Fang, you'd be like, yeah, I got that hit. They're slowed. That might be a game changer. Whereas now with the Ice Fang, it's worthless. You go up and you're like, oh, I didn't slow them. Oh, I didn't slow them. Oh, I didn't slow them. I'm dead. It doesn't even make a difference, really. It's just, you just look at the DPS. If you're going to use weapons with abilities, you need it to slow them. So I would say the Ice Fang needs to be switched with the Frostbow at a minimum. The Ice Fang would then reduce their speed by 40% every hit, and the Frostbow would have a chance. That would be a minimum. I would like, personally, I think you could make the Frost Fang do like 50% slow, and then the Frostbow, and again, I'm getting this from League of Legends, but I would just make it reduce their movement speed by like 20%. That's still significant. I mean, the Frostbow has a lot of range, but then I'd increase the damage of the Frostbow so that it matches at least a little bit closer to some of these other. Actually, the DPS isn't that bad. Yeah, I guess it's just a blue weapon. So maybe the DPS is fine, but it's maybe increase it by 1 or 2 and then decrease how much it slows people. Because yeah, the Frostbow is pretty powerful weapon in the blue area. The Dragon Bite's pretty awesome. Personally, I think if I were you guys, I would change it to, instead of in tombs, I would just say underground. So that could include Odin's. That would include even the underground portion of, because clearly you're okay with it being in PvP context. So I guess the Tomb of Ashes already included, but what's it called? Giant's Treasure, like the underground portion of Giant's Treasure in that PvP zone. That would be a great place to put for it to be able to count towards. The Dragon Sword is so powerful, and we already just talked about that. I love the Dragon Sword. It's super powerful. The Wrath Staff has been a staple weapon. Honestly, I'd compare everything to the Wrath Staff. The Wrath Staff is all DPS. It is a purple weapon. It is used a ton. I'd compare all your other weapons in relation to the Wrath Staff when you're thinking about balance, because it's just a sheer damage DPS weapon. It's just a good comparison as you add these skills. How does it compare to the Wrath Staff? And then the Dragon Staff, I think, is underpowered. But again, the DPS is 32, so maybe it's not. But maybe I would make the Dragon Staff do 2 damage per second with fire instead of a chance of doing it, just to make it consistently doing that DPS. But again, that's my bias. I personally don't like when chance is involved that much. And so anything I can do to remove chance is better. So, okay, so to recap, we got the 4 legendary weapons. We got the healing staff, which is ultimately good. It's a 35% chance of healing. So again, in my bias, I would move that to 100% chance and just make it a thing, and then reduce the healing to whatever that level you feel comfortable is. So there's less chance involved. I personally think 4. I would do 4, 4, 4, and 4. You know, you just heal the whole team, or 4, 3, 2, 1. You know, like you heal the whole team, but it's more, and it's every second. It's guaranteed. I don't think that's going to be that OP. Then we got this dagger, which I know people complain about it, but there's a lot of people who don't understand countering. They don't understand that the assassin needs to be able to evaporate people because it's weak. And so I think that changing this to a set amount of enemy armor that it ignores is going to be your ticket to really focusing on, I'm going to be able to really evaporate a mage or an archer, but I'm going to struggle to be able to be as effective with this dagger against a tank or a bruiser or any of those type of characters. So I would that's the first change that I recommend, and out of the legendary weapons. And then the stun bow and Thor Staff, I'd keep the same. I don't think you really need to change it that much. Armor, I'd keep the same. I wouldn't make any changes on that. The flask, y'all just recently changed. I think great change. It definitely makes the Alchemist and Witch Doctor way more powerful. Good job on that. I think that they needed to be in the running, and they were such a crappy class before you made that change. So good job on that change. The as far as the other purple weapons, I think this should just be underground in general, not just tombs. So that gives a little bit more play in the Dragon Bite. This weapon is great. The Dragon Shield and Sword. These, you know, the Cleaver and the 5-shot crossbow, these are all well balanced. And then the fire bow, I'm suggesting lowering to 8 DPS, and then maybe lowering this to 7 DPS of true damage, but then increasing the DPS on them, because again, now that y'all have runes in there, you have these different things, it's too much of a range of effectiveness. It makes it way too powerful at the low levels, but then it's going to eventually lose its power at the, when we got plus 70% health. And so just be a little bit more conservative with the true damage, and go in there just because of the nature of how true damage works. But then again, I mean, if the fire bow that's just what y'all want it to be eventually, like if y'all keep adding more classes, that it's just going to be a mid-tier weapon, and that it's going to be really OP early on and not that OP later on, then I guess that's okay. I mean, I think that gives it its place, but it eventually becomes obsolete, so it's not this OP weapon that destroys everything. This weapon, I think you should reduce the cooldown by 50%. I don't think it's gonna break the game. You try it out. I don't think it's gonna break the game by giving mages the ability to be able to use their skills twice as often. I think it will be a fun tactic. If I see anyone like an illusionist who's like, oh yeah, now I can use my blink and I can use my clones 50% more, or twice as often, I think that's going to be great, but I don't think he's going to be OP killing everyone unless he's got this amazing trick, but it'll be based on his talent, not on the numbers. Like this, I don't think reducing their cooldown by 50% is going to break the game in any way. And then I mentioned a few changes with the blue weapons, like, the Dragon Staff, making it more consistent, the Frostbow and the Ice Fang, switching those around. But most importantly, I forgot to mention some of these. Yeah, these are all good. I'd say the Grey Cutter, the Dragon Dagger, and the Protector Spear are all exactly where they need to be. But the Skull Claws, I mean, it is dropped by the hardest boss in Frostborn. Please make it a legendary weapon. Please add some poison damage or something that reminds us of Skull, and the challenge of defeating him. That just makes sense, right? It makes sense for Skullclaw to be up there. So please consider buffing Skullclaw. So that is it. Oh, and I forgot to mention the Dispel Potion. And this is going to be the controversial change that I suggest. But I think it's going to be better for Frostborn, okay? And that's why I'm suggesting it. So right now, the tactic is you keep, 2 slots in here. One here, and then you keep a Dispel Potion somewhere in your inventory. And then the idea is that you get good at this function right there, okay? You gotta be really good. I was used to practice this, and you basically do, see that? So I basically was able to use that Dispel Potion almost instantly, and I actually needed to get back out of my inventory to truly do it well. It's a 4-click thing, and you need to do it where you're clicking on the Dispel before you can actually see the Dispel, use it, and then exit out, and you do it all muscle memory, super fast, and it's like it never ever happened. It's like giving you an extra quick slot. I think that is not good for Frostborn, okay? That is really clever that people were able to come up with that, and they should be honored as legends of Frostborn, and they should always be remembered as, oh man, back in the day when you would go into your inventory, that was the days, and those were the legends. Great. Honor them, awesome. But what would be better for Frostborn long term is that when you go in here, is that everything is within the game. That's a hack to the game, right? You are not using the interface of the game. You are drawing something else out. And the fact that you are doing all of that, doing all of this in a split second is a hack, and you got good at it because you practiced it. I mean, you guys, if you haven't seen my PvP series where I was becoming a PvP master and I learned from all these guys, like they would talk about how they would use like carrots, and they would just, practice getting into their inventory and getting really good at dispelling fast. That's awesome that they did that. That is really praiseworthy, but it is not good for the game. Rather, they should do what every other game, you look at PUBG, they have a lot more buttons, okay? And so what I think they should do is 2 options. Either you have a shift key, you click this button, and now, or you click a button, and now the 4 skills on that side of the screen switch. Maybe each class has 2 more skills. That would be cool, but that's not really what I'm talking about. But you would be able to use 2 different quick slots. And so basically you'd have more quick slots. Maybe you just want to add 1. I don't know, but the point is you got an extra quick slot, or if you use the shift key, so there's 2 options. You either use a shift key and you click on it, and then you've got different options over here. Those 4 over there are different options. Or you just add some more buttons with some more quick slots. But then you go into your inventory and you say, when you click this, it's not going to let you use it in your inventory. Okay. I realize a lot of players that worked really hard. I know a lot of you worked really hard to be able to get into your inventory that quickly, go use it and get out of your inventory, and you worked really hard, and you're going to be upset that I'm suggesting for them to take that away. But I want you to look really deep down into yourself and say, hey, what is better for Frostborn? And what is better for Frostborn is that you don't have extreme hacks like that, where people are literally clicking where they cannot see things, because that is what it takes to be good. Okay? It's not that we can't all give up our, basically work really hard and practice. Again, I want to affirm how awesome you are for that commitment at getting good at PvP, but it's not good for Frostborn. And so basically adding more buttons or adding a shift key to where people can use the interface that Frostborn has given them to be good at the game. And if that happens, then that is going to equal the playing field. Okay, that's why y'all are going to hate it. That's why you're going to rave about, I can't believe you would suggest to take such a critical part of Frostborn away, blah, blah, blah. It's a hack, okay? And so it's going to equal the playing field. People that are just now getting into Frostborn that are just really good, skilled at, moving their fingers are going to be able to dispel quickly. And they're not going to go in there. Now, I still think we should keep the double tap, where someone who's good at their inventory can go in here and go click, come in here, and then they switch something out. So now, everyone else has 4 options or 3 options or whatever it is. And now you have technically 5 because you can go in there and you can switch it out to something else. Okay. And I don't think they should do this with soups and healing potions. Okay. I think that you should still be able to access those from your inventory because they are not time sensitive. Sometimes they can be. Sometimes you want to get in there and do it quickly, and that's where you'll still get your advantage. But most of the time, you got 2 minutes. You can go into your inventory, you can use them, you can get out, and it still equals the playing field. And I think that's going to be really important when we think about balancing the game. And so that is all of the weapons and items, opinions about balancing the game. I think those things need to happen first before we can really talk about how to balance the classes, because they're going to affect the classes and they're a big part of it. So as always, I'm interested in y'all's opinions. You can respond toxically if that's what makes you happy. But as I've mentioned, statistically, that's not going to actually make you happy. Just give an educated response for why you think this weapon or this item needs to be what way and why you think that. And we can have an intellectual conversation about it. And the devs can see that and respond. The devs have asked for this, and they've said that they've really considered it. And we've seen that, right? They've made a lot of changes that we've asked for. So go make those comments. The devs will read it. And hopefully we can make a better Frostborn together. All right, guys. I'll see you next time.